It's 11:26 p.m. here in Gallup, New Mexico, and the air has that cold, dry bite that creeps under your coat and settles in your bones. The thermometer bolted to the studio window says 41 degrees, dropping fast, and the wind off the red rock mesas keeps brushing the building like a slow hand. I'm Johnny Walker, and you're hearing me on 103.4 FM if your antenna is still intact and pointed east, or on a cheap hand radio if you dug one out of a garage drawer the way I did when the first sirens cut out. The main grid has been down since early morning, and the street outside the studio sounds wrong, too wide and too open. No engine noise, no neon buzz from the pawn shops on Route 66, no trains pushing through the yard, just the wind and a metal sign clacking loose on a rusty chain. I'm running this signal off 4 deep cycle batteries I hauled out of an old RV, a wobbly inverter, and a gas generator that coughs every time I pull the cord. I've got 2 jerry cans left, and a gravity-fed kerosene heater that smells like old rope and pepper when it fires. If the prop keeps spinning and the fuel line doesn't clog, I'll stay with you as long as the lights on this board stay green. Pretend you've just connected to this frequency. What do you tell the world in 15 seconds? What's the last thing you saw? Smoke, silence, soldiers? Comment your report like we're logging every broadcast. Whatever you call what is happening, the word doesn't fit in the mouth. People try out names to calm their hands. Some say it's just a long blackout and a run of bad luck. Some whisper government test. Others say it's something old that woke up because we kept digging and scraping at the land and treating the night like a thing to be bought and sold. I'm not going to tell you what to believe. I'm going to tell you what I've seen, what I've heard, and what I know in my gut when the wind hits the back door and the hairs on my arm lift like they're listening. There's a rhythm to this kind of fear. It starts as a question, and then it becomes a weight. Tonight, that weight sits right between my shoulder blades, and I know I'm not the only one who feels it there. The first signs were little and easy to ignore. The animal shelter on Maloney had 3 dogs go silent at once last Tuesday night. Not quiet, silent. The kind of quiet you get when the lights cut in a theater. A delivery driver out by Tolokai swore the coyote he saw on the shoulder stood up on 2 legs and watched his truck with its head tilted, like it knew him. A rancher to the north found a sheep torn open without prints around it, but the fence line had handholds in the dust, like someone dragged their fingers where no one should have been. A school nurse kept a log of kids with ear ringing that wouldn't stop, and noses that bled in short, neat lines. Those notes were still there on her desk when the power blinked for the first time, and the school went dark. I didn't think much of all this. I wrote half of it down in a pocket notebook with a coffee ring on the cover, and kept on with the morning show. Then the police scanner blew up with calls that made no sense, and the air changed. It happened for me at 2:14 p.m. 3 days ago. You might have felt it too. There was a pressure, like the sky pulled tight as a drum, and then a hum rolled over town, low and steady, the kind you feel in your teeth. Traffic froze on Highway 491, the way a herd freezes when something moves in the grass. A semi stalled on the overpass, and 4 cars behind it died so quick, drivers left their keys in the ignition like they were pressing pause and stepping out to check. The radio in my truck cracked with white noise even with the antenna down, and my phone screen went a hot, dead gray, not off, not on, stuck in a flat blank that reflected my face back at me like a mirror in a cheap bathroom. The sirens started, then cut off mid-wail, like someone put a hand over the speaker. The firehouse doors opened and stayed open, and nothing came out. I was outside then, in the back of the station, trying to find where the backup generator cable ran because the main lights had dropped for the 3rd time that hour. A shape moved in the alley, low and fast, and I thought it was a stray dog lined up with the dumpsters. Then it stood. Not all the way. It uncoiled, like it couldn't decide where its joints belonged. The shoulders sat wrong under a denim jacket that wasn't built for that frame. I called out without thinking. I said, "You okay there?" It turned but didn't step into the light. There's a way some people look at you when they're trying to remember if they owe you money or if you owe them money. This was not that. This was the look of a mouth trying to find the right shape for a word. I heard my own name come back at me from that corner, but it wasn't my name the way friends say it. It was my name like someone had read it off a folder and wanted to see how it felt. I did something smart for once. I went back in, locked the door, and pulled the blinds. By sundown, the town was a map drawn in dark. The hospital ran on a generator until something tripped the breaker and it went to shadows. The grocery stores pushed people out with whatever they had in hand because the registers were dead and the security gates wouldn't lower. Cash didn't matter, and cards didn't exist. Folks took what they could carry and promised to pay later, like that promise meant anything. A patrol car rolled through with 2 guardsmen in the back seat and a megaphone that squealed more than it spoke. The order was simple. Stay inside. Don't open the door for anyone you don't know, and don't open it if you hear your own name from the street. They said that twice. Don't answer your name if it comes from the dark. That's when fear got a face for me. I heard from Mark Delaney the next morning, on a hand radio set to the fire band. Mark used to run search and rescue. He's the guy who pulls hikers out of bad gullies when they walk off a trail to snap a picture and the ground gives. He sounded tired, and he never sounds tired. He told me they had 2 teams go missing in the canyon beyond Church Rock. Both teams carried flares and bear spray and a pair of bolt cutters that could chew through a padlock like candy. They found the flare caps in a circle on the sandstone, 5 caps spaced evenly like someone set them down and measured them, and nothing else. He said the track around the spot looked like 100 barefoot children had danced there. I asked him if he was sure. He said he knows prints. These weren't prints. The skin was wrong where it touched the dust, like the pads were smooth and new and trying on different shapes to see which fit. The grid fail wasn't a simple blown transformer. I spoke with Ida, who ran lines for PNM for 20 years until her back gave out, and the company gave her a cake and a watch. She had her truck radio patched to a battery in her garage and a tangle of wire stretched across the rafters, and she can read the grid like a book. She told me breakers were opening in sequence like someone was walking them down on purpose. North substation, then east, then the one that feeds the hospital and the schools. Not a random cascade, not a storm, not a squirrel in the wrong box. This was clean and neat and mean. An hour later, she went quiet and stayed quiet. By that afternoon, the emergency alert system started pushing a tone with no words. Just the stutter beep that makes your stomach drop, and then a minute of blank carrier. It moved from 103.4 to 97.1, and then popped on 8:20 a.m. like a ghost. A woman's voice finally came through, flat and even like a recording. The message gave coordinates south of Thoreau, and said there was a shelter with food, water, and medical staff. The coordinates led to a dry arroyo and a burned-out pump station. 2 trucks I recognized from town ended up there, and neither came back. Later, someone spray-painted, "Don't follow numbers," on the concrete by the overpass. It's still there if the wind hasn't taken it. I keep time with a wind-up watch I found in an old cigar box. If I hold it to the mic, you can hear it tick, but I won't do that because the squelch on this board is touchy, and I don't want to spike your speakers. It's been 30 hours since any official voice said anything new. The sheriff's office said a short phrase earlier, and then repeated it every 10 minutes, until even the repeater got bored and quit. Stay in groups of 3, cover mirrors, confirm by sight and sign, do not answer whistles after dark. That's all. Cover mirrors. That one stuck with me. I've seen a lot of windows today with old newspapers taped over, and aluminum foil pressed to the glass, not for the light, but for the reflection. A mechanic named Tito from the west side taught me how to keep the generator running steady. With a belt, I cut off an exercise bike. He also taught me a trick for doors that look stupid until you try it. Hang 3 tin cups on a string inside the front door, low and off to the side. Folks who move like people bump them with their shoes, or their bag, or their hip, and the cups clack soft and honest. The ones who keep their feet too neat, or bend at the wrong hinge, step over that string, like they watched for it. I don't know why that helps, but I've watched it work twice, and I'm not throwing the cups away. I've been walking the studio at night with a red flashlight, the kind hunters use so it doesn't ruin your night eyes. The hallway down to the old record vault smells like dust and old glue, and something else now, something like wet hair and pennies. Last night, I heard my name from the stairwell to the roof, low and calm, said like a friend who had just opened the door and saw me across a room. It was my name, but it wasn't my voice. It was clean and empty, like it had been washed. I didn't answer. That's the rule now. You don't answer your name unless you see the mouth that says it, and even then you look for the little things. A scar on the chin, a ring on the left hand, a hangnail, the way their weight sits on their heels. Don't rush. The wrong ones don't like to wait. They need you to break the silence first, and if you don't, they try something else. Whistling, scratching, a baby sound, your dog's collar tags. I've heard them all. The highways are choked. Cars sit nose to tail out by the state line. Doors open, hoods up, radios stuck on that empty EAS tone. Some folks tried to push past the line of stalled cars by taking the shoulder and got stuck in sand. And now the shoulder is its own road of half-buried tires and shredded rubber. The truck stop has the look of a place the day after a parade. Cups and wrappers everywhere. The smell of diesel and coffee that will never get poured. The pumps blink, no sale across dead screens. But if you kick the panel and press a valve at the base, you can bleed a little gas out by gravity. People are doing that now with cut garden hoses and plastic tote bins that used to hold toys and winter coats. No one wants to stop moving for very long. When they do, they park in the middle and stare at the tree line and listen. An old man named Ray, who used to mend fences, walked me around the idea of night after the power goes. He said, "See how the sky looks bigger, Johnny? It's not bigger. You just notice how much of it we tried to erase with light." He said you can hear your own blood when a town goes quiet. I'm hearing mine now, plain as a drum 2 feet away. I try to keep my voice steady into this mic so that if you're sitting in a dark kitchen with this box propped in the window, you don't pick up my hand shaking. I'll tell you when I'm scared. I'm scared now, but I'm also clear. Clear is good when scared is loud. There are a few things I can tell you that help. Don't use your name on the radio. If you need to pass a message, pick a word everyone knows and glue it to a number you change every day. Today the word is cloud, and the number is 7. If you need to let your neighbor know you're still there and safe, leave a chalk mark with 7 little dots under a cloud drawn on their back porch. If you are not safe, draw the cloud with a line through it and no dots. Simple things work. Dogs work if they grew up here and know our wind. New dogs panic and then go quiet, and then come home slow and sideways that first night, in a way I don't like. Cows spook at nothing, and then stand steady when a good person walks by. Watch your animals. They won't lie to you because they don't know how. When you need water and the store shelves are down to broken ramen, where can you go? There's a spigot behind the senior center, tied to a line that still feeds from a gravity tank up by the water tower. You need a wrench to crack it, and you need to close it clean after so no one thinks it's dry. There's a cistern behind the Pentecostal church that Sister Ruth showed me how to tap with a siphon, made out of 2 feet of hose and a prayer. If you can, boil it. If you can't, pour it through a t-shirt and let it sit until the heavy junk drops, and then pour the top off slow. Coffee filters are gold right now. Charcoal from a cold fire still helps once you grind it and pack it in a tube. A grandmother named Dolores showed 3 kids on my block how to layer sand, cloth, and charcoal in a soda bottle, with the bottom cut off so it drips clean. The kids clapped when the water came out clear. That sound made me cry, and I'm not ashamed to say it here where it's just me and a red light and the wind messing with the exit sign. Food's a grind, but it's not yet a war. Keep it simple. Canned beans, rice if you have water to spare, sunflower seeds if you find a bag at the feed store, jerky. Don't eat in front of a window. Don't boil with the lid off if you're near a road. Smell travels like gossip. If you have a garden, pick the last of the tomatoes and bring your peppers in. If you don't have a garden, look for the wild onions that grow in the lot by the old bowling alley. They look like grass but smell like the real thing when you nick them. Don't eat mushrooms you don't know. This is not the time to gamble with your gut. There's talk from people who wear uniforms and people who used to wear uniforms. I got a note pushed under the back door yesterday, folded 3 times, lined paper from a school notebook, block letters like a kid who learned to write when desks still faced the front. It said the guard fell back to Grants, and then further, that I-40 is a line they can't hold at night and barely hold by day. It said someone in a black Suburban with no plates drove to the hospital 2 nights ago and took the oxygen tanks and the portable UV field unit from the basement and drove away without turning on headlights. It said, there are people listening who don't breathe right and don't blink when you expect them to. I hate that I can't check any of it. I hate rumor. But I saw the hospital dock empty at first light, and the UV cart marks on the ramp, and the way a fresh skid looks when it's made by a truck trying not to look like it braked. I saw that. An old translator from down near Window Rock told me something I keep in my pocket with the wind-up key to my watch. He said the rules of a place don't leave when the lights do. He said the land keeps score and pays out slow. He said if something calls you from just beyond where the porch light would reach, that's not a new problem. That's an old problem, wearing a new coat. I don't claim to know the old rules, and it's not my right to speak them here, so I'll share only what I can use without breaking trust. Don't say your name into the dark. Don't look in a mirror at night if you feel watched. Don't whistle after midnight. Don't eat gifts left on your step, and don't return things you didn't ask for. If that sounds strange, that's fine. Keep what keeps you steady. The rest you can leave here in the static and let the wind have it. I took a walk at dusk with a scarf over my face, and the radio clipped low so the antenna stayed close to my hip. The pawn shop windows were spidered with cracks, and a feather from a display war bonnet hung on a nail and turned in the draft. A man with a pack stood on the sidewalk holding a bundle of sage, the way you hold a torch you're not sure you're allowed to use. He nodded at me, not a smile, just the nod of a man who knows you're trying to stay a person in a place that wants you to be something else. Around the corner, A grocery cart full of canned peaches sat in the shadow of a dead streetlight. The cans were cold. Someone had set a single fork on top. It took me 5 minutes to understand the message. The fork was pointing toward the alley with a little scrape in the dust beneath it, and the scrape pointed to a side door to the Masonic Lodge. Inside that door, a family of 4 was huddled in a circle with blankets and a box of water bottles. They let me in because I knew the name of the eldest daughter's teacher and the mascot of their team, and the shape of the birthmark on the little one's wrist. That's how we do it now. Human facts. Some of you asked for science, for a shape to put on this that isn't a shadow. I'll give you what I've got that doesn't lean into stories I don't own. There's a field, or something like a field, and it messes with small circuits worse than big ones. I can keep the generator steady with belts and heat and a carb clean, but my phone is a brick, and a new drone flies like it's drunk. Old things work. Old radios, old watches, trucks that know how to run when the alternator isn't happy. If you've got a bike, keep it. If you've got a windmill that creaks when it turns, grease it and let it creak. The silence is not our friend. A neighbor's kid set up a hand crank to charge AA batteries, and he's charging for them with information trades, not money. He wants the names of streets where the pavement is cracked in a way that makes a groove he can follow in the dark with a shopping cart full of radios. We're learning which old tools matter again. A hand auger, a shovel with a strong step, a hammer that can hit a nail square even when your fingers are cold. The worst part, for me, isn't the dark. It's the reminders that the dark is not empty. Something moved through my block last night around 3 a.m., the time when the cold gets mean. It passed under my window and stopped, and I could hear the little scuff of something like knuckles on concrete. Then I heard my mother's voice clear as summer, asking if I had the spare key. My mother's not here. She's 2 states away with my sister, and she doesn't call me by my full name when she's worried. She calls me by the dumb nickname she made up when I was 6. The thing outside didn't know that, and I held on to that tiny fact like it was a steel bar. It went away a long minute later, the way a cat goes away when it realizes the mouse hole is sealed. I sat on the floor for another half hour and counted breath in 4s, the way a guitar player counts before he hits the first chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're still here. Some hope, because I can't hold the mic without giving you that too. Down the street, a woman named April set a pot of sopa on a grill made from a rim and a grate and waved 3 neighbors over who had nothing to trade. She gave them bowls, and they gave her stories. Across from the rail yard, a guy who used to build HVAC systems got an old swamp cooler working on a roof, so the air inside a house didn't smell like thyme. There's a boy on my block who can't sleep, and he sits on the stoop wrapped in a quilt and points out satellites that still drift overhead. Every time he finds one, he says the same thing. That's a thing that kept going. It helps more than I thought it would. If you need a plan for the night, I'm going to give you one, and you can laugh at it if it sounds like a kid's drawing. Write down a list of the sounds in your house that are honest. The click of your stove when you turn the gas off, the way your front door tugs against the weather strip, the drip in the bathroom sink you still haven't fixed, the creak in the 3rd stair. Then write down the sounds that are wrong. Your name without breath behind it. Whistling from ground level, not from a mouth. Knuckles on a window, not the glass, but the frame. A song you know played too slow. If you hear the wrong sounds, move to your plan. A room without windows if you have one. A candle behind a can so the flame doesn't show in the seam. Text won't go, but a radio will if you keep it low and you keep the volume knob between finger and thumb. so you can kill it if the voice on the other end starts using words it shouldn't know. If you must look outside, look down first. Regular people forget their feet when they pretend. The others don't. There's a short band broadcast on 730 meg that repeats every hour with a weak, clean tone and a simple message. Sunrise times for the next 3 days, and a prayer for mercy. I don't know who set it up. I don't need to. It means someone is out there with a chart and a clock and a sense that telling strangers when the light comes matters. That's civilization. Not the big words or the big bills. The little care. You can find heat in weird places. Parking garages hold onto the day's warmth like thermoses. Empty school buses do the same if you close the doors and hang blankets over the windows. A church with south-facing brick will bleed heat into the night until about 1 a.m. Then it dips. Plan your sleep around the dips. Share watches in sets of 3 even if you think you don't need to. Nobody sees the same thing the same way after 2 days of this, and having a third person say yes, that's just the tree and the wind, keeps a person from digging a hole in their head where fear can grow. You've heard plenty about the bad. You've seen more. There is a way to live through this. Set rules. Stick to them. Make the rules simple, so a tired kid can repeat them without tripping. Don't say your name outside after dark. Don't travel alone. Don't trust a voice without a body. Don't trust a body that doesn't move the way a body should. Eat sitting down when you can. Drink water even when you're not thirsty. Check on your old ones, not with a knock, but with the scrape of a chair in their kitchen, the way you used to, so they know it's you. Leave chalk marks, not words. Words get stolen. Chalk marks have to be read with eyes, not borrowed from your head. The generator is making that thin, high whine that means it would like me to check the oil and say something nice to it. I will sign off for a short spell to baby it and to check the rope snares on the back stair because they slipped last time, and I want them right. I'll come back on at 2:15 a.m. if the fuel holds and the belt stays tight. And if I can't come back on 103.4 FM, I'll try to push a thin wave on 8:20 a.m. with a wire I strung along the ceiling and a prayer that the old transmitter still remembers how to hum. If you lose me, give me 10 minutes. After 10, try 3 slow clicks on your radio's power and wait for 3 slow clicks back. If you hear my voice again, I'll have sunrise times, a list of safe water taps reported in the last hour, and the names I've seen scrawled on the whiteboard by the studio door. The names of the ones who came through the alley today and left chalk marks to say they are still standing. We are not the first to sit in a small room with a radio and the old night at the door. People did this before wires held up the sky. They did it without numbers for the roads and without passwords for the locks. They looked for the shape of each other in the dark and stayed human anyway. So can we. If you can, breathe with me for a count of 4. Slow in, slow out. While the wind presses its cheek to the window and listens, you and I will keep talking. We'll keep counting. We'll keep a little light alive where we can. I'll be back after I feed this stubborn machine and walk the hall once more. Keep low. Keep quiet. Keep faith with the small things that tell the truth. And if something in the night says your name in a voice like a clean plate, let the silence answer for you. It's 2:17 in the morning, and I'm back on 103.4 FM with the hum of this generator hanging behind my words like a tired heartbeat. The air outside is colder now, 34 degrees on the dial, and the frost is crawling up the windows of this studio, even though I taped them up with duct tape and newspaper. The street is dead, but not in the way a town sleeps. It's the kind of dead where even the wind slows down, like it doesn't want to be caught moving in the wrong place. The silence has weight, and it presses on your chest until you catch yourself whispering to nobody just to prove your voice still works. I just came back from checking the back stairwell. The snares held this time, though one of the ropes was stretched, like something leaned hard against it, testing it for give. A scratch line ran down the metal door, too high for a dog, too neat for a coyote, and too slow for a person in a hurry. It stopped at the handle and ended in 4 points. I stood there staring at it until I felt the skin on my back pull tight, and I walked back faster than I wanted to admit. I locked the door twice. That doesn't mean much anymore, but it feels like it buys me 1 more second if something tries the handle from the wrong side. Reports keep trickling through the static. Someone on the East End swore they saw a thing cross the road on 2 legs, bent low, moving wrong, arms long like a coat hanger stretched too far. The headlights of a truck cut it for a second, and then the truck died cold. When the driver climbed out, the air smelled like iron and wet leather. They didn't stay long enough to check prints. Another family said their horses kicked the fence boards clean through when something whistled in the field. Not a man's whistle, not a bird's call. Something between the two, steady and low, like it was waiting for someone to answer back. They stayed locked in the barn till sunup. I've been thinking about the rules, the old ones. Don't answer your name after dark. Don't whistle back when something whistles first. Don't follow tracks that start too clean and end too fast. These weren't written in books. They live in stories people used to tell with the porch light on and the kids half asleep. I didn't take them serious when I was younger. Now they feel like the only fence left standing. Maybe fences never kept anything out. Maybe they just reminded us where not to step. I keep the radio low when I'm not talking, but even with the volume cut down, I still hear bursts that don't sound like interference. Last hour, the static broke into a sound that was almost my own voice, stretched thin and slow, like someone dragging a recording through thick syrup. It said 1 word. It said open. I shut the dial off fast, but the words stayed in my head like an echo bouncing around a canyon. I haven't opened anything since, not even the cupboard in the break room. The town's falling apart piece by piece. Power's gone, water lines are sputtering, phones are flat gray bricks. The stores are empty, and the gas tanks bleed only if you beg them with hoses. But what scares me more than the dark is the quiet coordination of what's left outside. They're not just shadows moving around. They're testing us, probing doors, calling names, learning our shape. They know enough to copy, but not enough to get it right. That gap, that sliver of wrongness, is what keeps us alive. For now. I'll keep the signal alive as long as the batteries let me. If you're out there, mark your doors, check your water, sit in threes, and don't answer what you can't see. The night is long, but it doesn't last forever. I'll stay with you until the hum dies or the light comes. It's 4:03 a.m. on 103.4 FM, and the heater just coughed itself awake again, filling this room with that old rope and kerosene stink that clings to your jacket even when you step outside. The frost on the window has crept higher, curling over the duct tape like fingers, and I keep brushing the glass with my sleeve, just to remind myself there's still a world out there. It's quiet in Gallup tonight, quieter than it ever should be. The kind of quiet where you can hear your breath bounce off the walls, and if you stop breathing for a second, you swear you hear another set of lungs keeping time with yours. I walked the block earlier, staying low and moving slow, listening to the gravel under my boots like it was trying to rat me out. The town feels hollow now. The grocery store's windows are black, and the sign out front still flashes sale, but only because somebody's rigged a lantern inside that blinks every few seconds. It's not electricity. It's someone trying to trick eyes in the dark, make it look alive when it isn't. Smart or stupid? I can't decide. A trick light might keep people moving past, but it might draw the wrong ones closer too. On the edge of the yard by the station, I found tracks pressed into the hard dirt. Not footprints exactly. Too long, too narrow, with toes that don't match any boot I've seen. They run straight to the wall, stop clean at the bricks, and don't start again on the other side, like whatever made them melted into the wall and never came out. I pressed my palm against the spot, and the brick was cold, colder than the air. I pulled back fast. Some things you don't linger on. I keep hearing stories from the west side, out past the train yard. Families gone without a struggle, doors wide open, food still on the table. Chairs pulled out like they were about to sit down. Then nothing. No fight. No broken glass. Just the echo of lives cut in half. People say sometimes you can hear voices inside those empty houses, calling out to each other, laughing even, like the people never left. But if you walk up and lean close, it's your own name that leaks out through the cracks. There's talk of the guard pulling all the way back to Albuquerque. That leaves us naked out here. No sirens, no patrol cars, no line between what's us and what isn't. Some say it's better this way, that uniforms just draw fire. Maybe. But I remember when the scanner used to buzz steady and somebody always answered back. Now it's mostly dead air and the occasional burst of numbers that don't line up with anything real. I don't trust those bursts. Numbers are bait these days. If you're listening, here's what I've learned. Old locks are better than new ones. Padlocks with keys still hold. Deadbolts that don't need power keep doors shut. String your cups on the door like I told you. Trust the sound of them clacking more than any voice on the other side. And if you hear your name spoken low, like it's being practiced, let it sit unanswered. The night feeds on answers. I'll stay on the air until the fuel dips low. When the horizon grays, I'll try the rooftop again. Maybe the sun will shake some of this off, or maybe it'll just show us how much worse the dark made it look. Either way, I'll still be here behind this mic, counting the hours out loud so you know you're not alone. It's 5:41 a.m. now, still on 103.4 FM. And the world outside the window looks like it's holding its breath before dawn. The sky is gray, not the clean gray you see before rain, but the kind that makes everything look flat and washed out, like the color has been pulled away. The streets are still empty, though I caught sight of one figure moving at the far end of the block. Too far to know for sure if it was man, woman, or something else. It didn't walk right. It kept its arms stiff at its sides, not swinging with each step the way people do when they're not thinking about it. I watched until it slipped behind a building and never came out the other side. I waited 10 full minutes. Still nothing. That's worse than seeing it again. The generator's nearly out of fuel, and I'll have to make a run to the garage out back soon. I hate that moment. The walk from one door to the other. The space between feels stretched, longer than it should be, like the air doesn't want to let me cross. Last time I made the trip, I swore I heard footsteps match mine half a beat late, like an echo that didn't belong to the walls. I turned quick. Nothing there, but the hairs on my arms stood straight. I forced myself forward anyway, muttering every name of every street I could think of, just to keep my voice steady. More reports trickling in through the weak bands. A rancher near the Red Rock area said 3 of his cattle turned up dead in the morning. Not eaten. Just dead, drained, laid out in a line, their heads all pointed the same way. He didn't wait around to figure out why. He drove into town with his shotgun across his knees, but no one's seen him since last night. Maybe he's holed up. Maybe not. Out by the railroad bridge, someone painted warnings in red across the concrete. Big block letters that say, "Don't follow the sound." No signature, no symbol, just that one line, over and over, until the paint ran dry. I've been thinking a lot about silence. You'd think silence would be safe, but it isn't. Out here, silence is just another kind of noise. You start to learn the difference between quiet that's natural and quiet that's forced. Natural quiet has space in it. You can hear a dog bark 3 blocks away, or the wind catch a tin roof. Forced quiet is heavy, pressed down, like someone laid a hand over the whole town and told it not to breathe. That's the quiet that makes you sweat. The quiet that means something is listening for you to break first. I don't know what's waiting for us when the sun clears the ridge. Maybe things will scatter. Maybe they'll hide. Maybe they'll just stand there in plain sight and wait for the dark to cover them again. What I do know is this: you're not alone if you can hear me. I'm here, voice to radio, scratch to static, heart to heart. Keep moving when you must, stay still when you can, and don't give your name to the dark. I'll check back once the light comes fully. If this frequency cuts out, I'll try the AM band again. Hold steady. Dawn is close. It's 7:12 a.m. on 103.4 FM, and the sun finally clawed its way over the ridge. You'd think that would feel like relief, but it doesn't. The light looks thin, like it's struggling to warm anything. The frost on the window hasn't melted yet, and the shadows out there don't retreat the way they used to. They just fade slow, clinging to the corners of houses, stretching long fingers across the pavement until they break apart. It's morning, but it doesn't feel like it. I walked outside while the sky was still pink at the edges. The street had that smell, burned plastic and dust, that tells you something went wrong while you were asleep. A row of mailboxes on the corner were bent back like they'd been pried open with bare hands, but the strange thing is, the letters were still inside. No one took them, just tore the boxes open to look, and left everything where it fell. Some envelopes were smeared with what looked like mud, but the ground was bone dry. I picked one up. The smear wasn't mud. It was darker, sticky even after the cold night. I dropped it fast. At the gas station up the road, the windows are gone, not broken out, but removed, like someone slid the glass free and carried it off without cracking it. Inside, the shelves are stripped bare, but in the back cooler, the door is propped wide open and the floor is covered in neat rows of empty water bottles. Each one is crushed flat, as if someone drained them carefully, lined them up, then left them like a pattern. Who does that? People desperate for water just toss bottles aside. This looked arranged, like it meant something, and I don't like not knowing what. The radio bands are thinner now, static everywhere, with bursts of voices that don't always sound right. I caught a message around 6 a.m. on a weak AM signal, a man's voice repeating coordinates outside Gallup, saying there's food and shelter there. But the words were too clean. No hesitation, no background noise, no breath. Just perfect loops. I don't trust perfect loops. Somebody's setting bait, and I'd bet what little fuel I've got left that it isn't the guard. People are starting to crack. I saw a man this morning standing dead center in the road, yelling at the sky. daring it to come down and take him. He had nothing in his hands, no pack, no weapon, just his voice. He screamed until it broke. Then he went quiet and walked back into the neighborhood like he'd forgotten why he was out there. I don't know if he made it home. Here's what I know for sure. Daylight doesn't mean safety. It just means you can see the shape of what you should avoid. If you're listening, check your doors again. Check the windows. Keep water hidden, not in plain sight. And if you hear a voice on the radio that sounds too steady, too perfect, turn the dial and let the static answer for you. I'll stay here until the generator gives me another warning groan. I've got one can left to pour in, maybe enough to keep this signal alive until nightfall. After that, we'll see. If you're still breathing, if you're still listening, then we've got one thing left they can't take. We're still here. It's 9:46 a.m. here on 103.4 FM, and the sun is high enough now to paint the mesas in that sharp red glow, but it doesn't feel warm. The air's thin, the kind of cold that stings the nose when you breathe too deep. I keep stepping outside just to remind myself there's still a sky, still a world beyond these four walls. But each time I do, the silence gets heavier. A town this size should sound alive even in daylight. Kids, trucks, dogs. But all I hear is the wind dragging through empty streets and the occasional rattle of something loose on a roof. I walked to the edge of Route 66 this morning, staying low, watching both sides like I was crossing a battlefield. The road is clogged with stalled cars, hoods up, doors left open. Some of them are burned out, but most look like people just stepped out and walked away. The strange thing is how neat it looks. No smashed glass, no desperate rummaging. Just engines cut, keys still in ignitions, and silence pressing down on the line of them, like they're waiting for drivers who aren't coming back. I leaned into one car, a sedan, with a child's seat in the back, and the radio was still tuned to a station, faint static bleeding through. Somebody must have been listening right up until the moment it stopped. At the far end of the lot, I found something worse. 3 crosses cut into the asphalt with chalk, each one about 2 feet tall. Around them, circles of crushed cans, mostly energy drinks, lined up like offerings. There weren't any footprints, just those strange, too narrow impressions that stop and start without a pattern. I stood there longer than I should have, waiting for something to move, but nothing did. Still, I felt watched. I don't linger in places like that anymore. The water problem's getting worse. Word is, the main tower by the edge of town isn't pumping at all now. Folks are draining backyard pools, filling barrels with what they can, some even cutting gutters to collect what little dew drips off the roofs in the morning. I saw a woman scooping frost into a bucket with her bare hands until her fingers turned red. She looked up once and gave me a smile that wasn't really a smile, more like her face forgot how to do it. I wanted to help, but I didn't have anything left to give. The radio bands are almost barren now, just static, with occasional bursts of words that feel wrong. I caught one at 8:30, clear as glass, a voice saying, "Don't look at the mirrors." Nothing before, nothing after. Just that. I don't even keep a mirror in here anymore. The bathroom's got a shard of glass taped over, and I haven't looked at it in days. If you've still got one in your house, cover it. Don't ask me why. Just do it. People used to laugh about old warnings, old stories, said they were superstitions. But superstitions don't spread through static. They don't walk wrong down streets where no one else dares. They don't learn to say your name like they're trying it on for size. If this is superstition, it's the kind that kills. I'll keep the signal running until the generator dips again. If you can hear me, hold on to what you can control. Hide your water. Keep your name to yourself. Trust the sounds you know. And if the daylight tricks you into thinking it's safe, remember this. The shadows don't go away. They just wait for night. It's 12:28 p.m. on 103.4 FM, and the light outside is sharp and unforgiving now. Every corner of this town laid bare under the sun. You'd think that would be a comfort, but it isn't. The shadows have pulled back, yes, but they cling to the alleys and the undersides of porches like they're biding their time, like they know exactly when the sun will sink again. I sat on the roof for a while, watching. The streets look almost normal in the glare, like a town between parades. Quiet, stripped, waiting. But the longer you look, the more wrong it feels. It's not emptiness, it's absence. From up there, I could see clear down to the rail yard. Freight cars stand dead on the tracks, graffiti shining too bright against the metal. No workers, no guards, just stillness. But I swear I saw something move through the cars, slipping in and out of the gaps, never fully in the open. It kept low, gliding almost. I rubbed my eyes against the glare, and when I looked back, it was gone. Maybe the heat's playing tricks, but I don't believe that anymore. On my walk back down, I cut by the schoolyard. The swings swayed just a little, though the air was still. A chalk drawing stretched across the cracked pavement. A sun, too big for the space, with faces scratched into the rays. Each face had its mouth open, like it was calling out. I bent down to look closer, but the dust blurred the edges. There weren't any kids left to draw something like that. Not now. Which means someone, or something, put it there after. The generator's still holding, though it gulps fuel like a thirsty dog. I've rigged a siphon line into the last can, so I don't have to step outside when it dips. Every time I do, the quiet feels like it's waiting to lunge. I try not to give it the chance. I picked up a shortwave burst around 11 a.m. A woman's voice, clipped, hurried, almost drowned in static. North Ridge, stay low. They don't like the dust. Then silence. I replayed it 3 times on the recorder, straining to catch more, but that's all I could make out. Don't like the dust. What does that mean? Is it cover? Is it something in the air they can't stand? Or is it just another trick to pull people into the open? I can't tell anymore. Every scrap of information feels like both a lifeline and bait. Food's thinning too. The market shelves are empty, and whatever people carried off is already being rationed down to scraps. I saw a man bartering dried beans for a single flashlight battery this morning, his hands trembling as he handed it over. The hunger in his eyes wasn't just for food, it was for light, for something that pushes the dark back. I get it. I've got one working flashlight left, with the beam weak and yellow, and I guard it like it's gold. I'll keep this station humming as long as I can. If you're listening, eat slow, drink careful, keep your light close, and don't get too comfortable in the daylight. The shadows haven't gone. They're just crouched, watching, waiting for dusk to settle back over Gallup. If the signal cuts, give it a few minutes. I'll always come back if I can. It's 2:55 p.m. here, on 103.4 FM, and the sun is high, but the streets of Gallup don't feel alive under it. The light is sharp enough to make the metal of abandoned cars glow like embers, but it doesn't warm the bones, doesn't bring back the sound of people or dogs or trains. I sat at the edge of the studio roof again, legs hanging over. and the silence was a weight on my chest. Every so often I'd hear a rattle, a can rolling across the pavement. But when I looked, nothing was there to have kicked it. The high school football field lies wide open, the grass gone yellow and brittle. From up here, I can see white chalk lines still faintly marking the end zones. But along the 50-yard line, someone, recently, not weeks ago, scratched out symbols I don't recognize. Not words, not English, not anything I know. Circles within circles, and long lines that stretch toward the bleachers like arrows. From above, it looks like a map. But to what? I can't guess. No footprints in or out, like it appeared overnight. Down by the service station, the air smelled wrong again. Not gasoline, not oil, something closer to iron and old pennies. There were smears on the asphalt, like something heavy had been dragged from the pumps toward the drainage ditch. I didn't follow them. Curiosity doesn't keep you alive. The radio bands are worse now. The static is louder than my own breath, but every half hour or so, a burst cuts through. At 2:10, I heard it again. My name, clear as a bell, said in a voice that wasn't mine but tried hard to be. The pitch was off by just enough to scrape at the ear. It said, "Johnny." Come outside, I pulled the plug on the receiver for a full 10 minutes before I could bring myself to turn it back. When I did, the airwaves were blank again. I've started writing down rules on the inside of the studio door in black marker. Rules for me, rules for anyone who might stumble in here after me. They're simple, but they matter. Don't say your name out loud after dark. Don't look in mirrors when you feel watched. Don't follow voices, no matter how familiar they sound. Don't trust perfect silence. Eat only indoors. Drink only indoors. Always count your steps between doors. If the number changes, don't move. Food is still holding, but only because I rationed down to 1 can of beans this morning. The water's trickier. The taps give nothing now. I filled bottles days ago, and I've been boiling what little I can scrape from the old cistern. It tastes like rust, but it's wet, and wet keeps the throat from closing up. If you're listening, and you've got a way to catch the morning dew, do it. A rag left out on metal overnight can give you a mouthful, and a mouthful is the difference between clear thinking and panic. The sun's got about 5 hours left in it before the shadows stretch long again, and I can already feel them leaning toward us. If you're listening, stay close to your safe room, check your doors twice, and keep your ears sharp. The day may look calm, but it's only hiding what waits for night. I'll be back before dusk if the fuel holds. Don't give your name to the wind. Don't answer back. It's 5:37 p.m. on 103.4 FM, and the sun's sliding low now, turning the mesas into long teeth biting into the horizon. The air's gone colder again, a dry chill that seeps into the cracks of this building, and every shadow in town has started to stretch thin and mean. I can feel it in my gut, that shift between day and night, where everything slows down and waits. Even the birds are gone, not flying off, not roosting, just gone. I made a loop around the block about an hour ago. The light was still strong then, but even under the sun, things felt wrong. A door on 2nd Street had been ripped clean off its hinges, but nothing inside was touched. Not a chair knocked over, not a single drawer opened. It was like something only wanted the door. 2 houses down, a window was shattered inward, and I found a trail of broken glass leading not into the living room but out into the yard. Try to picture that. Glass falling against gravity. I didn't linger to figure it out. The old laundromat still has a sign buzzing on and off, but when I stepped close, I realized it wasn't electricity at all. Someone had rigged a lantern behind the plastic, timed so it flickered. But the pattern wasn't random. Short, short, long. Pause. Short, short, long. I don't know if that's a signal or bait, but I didn't stick around to test it. The bands are restless now, static with bursts of something beneath it, like voices talking underwater. Around 4:30, a phrase cut through, clear and sharp. Answer the whistle. Just that. Nothing else. I shut the dial off quick, sat in silence, and sure enough, maybe 10 minutes later, a low whistle drifted through the alley outside the station. Not a tune, not a bird, just a steady note, rising and falling. It stayed for almost a full minute before it died. If you hear that tonight, plug your ears, hum, do whatever you have to. Just don't answer. I've got the generator humming steady, one last can of fuel waiting by the door. If I stretch it, maybe I get through the night. Maybe not. The light is fading, and the shadows are starting to push against the glass like they're testing how far they can reach. If you're listening, this is the time to lock down. Cover your mirrors, check your strings, set your rules. Don't give the dark your name. Don't whistle back. And if you hear a knock that sounds too polite for these times, stay still. Some things learn fast, but not fast enough to fake patience. I'll stay with you as the night comes down. Hold steady. The dark is almost here. It's 8:22 p.m. on 103.4 FM, and the sun's been gone for more than 2 hours. The whole town is wrapped in shadow now, and the kind of silence that sits on your chest has taken over again. I lit one candle in here just to keep my eyes from straining in the dark, but I keep it behind a coffee can so the flame doesn't throw shadows on the walls. Shadows are dangerous now. They don't stay where you expect them to. The streets outside are empty, but not still. I can feel movement even if I can't always see it. The air shifts, the gravel crunches where no one's walking. Just a few minutes ago, the back stairwell door creaked slow, like someone leaned against it to test the weight. The rope snare tightened, then went slack, but nothing pushed through. When I walked back there with the red light, the door frame had long scratches running down the paint. Not claw marks, not tools, just scratches, neat and careful, like someone was writing something they couldn't quite finish. I picked up a burst on shortwave just before 8 o'clock. A man's voice this time, too low, too smooth, repeating the same phrase. It's safe now, come outside. Over and over, with the same pauses in the same places. That's not how people talk. People stumble, people breathe, people cough. This was perfect, rehearsed, like a recording run too many times. If you hear that voice tonight, ignore it. No one's out there waiting to help you. Not anymore. I keep thinking about the warnings painted around town. Don't follow the sound. Don't answer your name. Don't look at mirrors. Simple rules. Rules you'd laugh at in another life. But here, they're the only things keeping us human. I heard my own name again about half an hour ago, drifting in through the vents. Not shouted, not whispered, just spoken, steady, like someone calling me in for supper. It made my stomach twist. I didn't answer. I won't ever answer. The hunger's setting in harder now. I ate half a can of peaches I'd been saving, and I almost cried at how sweet they tasted. That's how far things have slipped. Half a can of fruit feels like a feast. I'm rationing the water too, sipping small so my throat doesn't crack. If you've got a stockpile, guard it. If you don't, find some way to stretch what little you have. Water is life now, and the wrong ones out there know it. I'll keep this signal running through the night if the fuel holds. If you're listening, stay quiet, stay low, and hold on to your rules. The dark's thick tonight, and it feels like it wants more from us than just fear. Don't give it anything. Don't give it your name. It's 11:06 p.m. on 103.4 FM, and the dark has settled deep, thick enough that even the candle flame feels swallowed when I stare at it too long. The cold bites harder now, creeping under the cracks in the door and frosting the corners of the windows. I pulled my jacket tight, but it doesn't help much. The whole building feels like it's breathing slow, timbers groaning every so often as if they're straining under a weight none of us can see. Something's been circling the block for hours. I can't see it clear, but I can hear it. Boots or hooves or something that wants to sound like either. The steps don't fall in rhythm. Sometimes they're fast, sometimes dragging, like someone forgetting how to walk. At one point, they stopped right under the window. I held my breath and counted to 50 before they moved again. But the worst part wasn't the footsteps. It was the sound that came after. A whistle, low and steady, just like the one I warned you about earlier. This time it stretched longer, almost playful, like it was daring me to break the silence. I didn't. A burst came through on the band at 10:20. Clearer than most, but wrong all the same. A woman's voice, calm as a recording. "You can open the door now. We've fixed the lights. Everything is safe over and over. Perfect loops. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that nothing's perfect out here. Loops mean lies. If you hear words that sound too clean, turn the dial, kill the set, cover your ears. Trust the messiness of real voices, the breaths, the cracks, the fear." I walked the hallway to the back room just after 10. The smell hit me first. Wet earth and iron, sharp enough to sting my nose. On the floor, right where the light from the candle cut off, I saw prints pressed into the dust. Not shoes, not bare feet. Long impressions, thin, ending in points that dragged backward, like claws pulling instead of pushing. They stopped right at the edge of the light. I didn't step closer. I backed out, slow, and shut the door. The rules on the wall keep me steady. I read them out loud before I sat down again. Don't answer your name. Don't whistle back. Don't look in mirrors. Don't trust silence. The simple things feel like armor, thin though they are. I don't know how much longer the fuel will last tonight. The hum of the generator is slowing, every cough a reminder that this voice might cut off mid-sentence. If that happens, remember this. You're not alone. Even if all you hear is static, I'm out here with you, holding on against the same dark. The night's not over yet. Stay inside. Stay quiet. And whatever you do, don't open the door.